Heartwarming revelation, little girl's incredible music transforms millionaire's life forever. In the heart of a small Midwest town, a petite girl named Lily found her refuge in the creaking wood and ivory keys of her family's old piano. Just 8 years old, her fingers danced across the faded keys, creating melodies that wrapped around her family like a warm embrace. They cheered her on through their struggles, her father facing layoffs at the factory and her mother tirelessly juggling jobs to keep them afloat. Each note Lily played was a reminder that hope still lived within their home, despite the dark clouds of financial despair hovering outside. One bright summer day, the community festival came alive with laughter and busy chatter. Colorful banners hung like rainbows above the town square, where families gathered to celebrate. Lily, nervous yet excited, stepped up to the makeshift stage, her heart pounding. She glanced at her parents, their smiles filling her with confidence. With every breath, she soaked in the vibrant atmosphere, knowing music had the power to make even the hardest days feel lighter. As she began to play a hauntingly beautiful melody, a hush fell over the crowd. The sunlight cast a golden glow upon her, and everyone listened, rapt by the pure, raw emotion in her notes. Among them was Mr. Thompson, a reclusive millionaire who had wrapped himself in the cold armor of wealth, watching from a distance. As Lily's music floated through the air, it stirred something deep within him, a flicker of laughter and innocence he thought lost in time, but the moment brought with it an internal struggle for Mr. Thompson. Could he step out of his gilded cage, or would he retreat into the shadows of his isolation? He found himself torn between the charming authenticity of the little girl on stage and the fear of connecting with those he deemed beneath him. As Lily's melody captured the hearts of the town, Mr. Thompson's heart wrestled within him, the walls of his mansion echoing with the haunting sound of community hovering just beyond. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Tension thickened as whispers of the community center's impending closure spread through the crowd like wildfire. How could they lose the heart of their town? It was then that Lily, fueled by her unwavering spirit, decided to take charge. Inspired by the hope she felt in her music, she organized an impromptu concert, rallying the townsfolk to come together for one night only to save their beloved gathering place. The night arrived, fraught with anticipation. The community closed around her like a comforting blanket, their faces illuminated by the soft glow of string lights. Just as she prepared to let her heart pour out with every note, Mr. Thompson stepped onto the stage, shocking the audience into silence. With trembling hands, he joined her in a duet that united their worlds, his loneliness mingling with her joy in a swelling harmony that dared to break barriers. But as uplifting as the moment felt, uncertainty loomed. Would Mr. Thompson reclaim his rightful place in the community, or vanish into the shadows yet again? As the final notes faded, leaving behind echoes of hope and connection, the audience held their breath, wondering if the healing power of music could truly mend the wounds of a fractured millionaire and a small town yearning for unity. The silence hung heavy in the air, but it was full of promise. The crowd's eyes darted between Lily and Mr. Thompson, breathing in the weight of the moment. The final notes of their duet were like fragile butterflies, fluttering softly from the stage, carrying whispers of transformation. But as the applause erupted, Lily could see the conflict swirling in Mr. Thompson's eyes, a blend of awe and fear that tugged at something deep within her. As the clapping faded, the townsfolk broke into excited chatter. They were buzzing with hope, drawing closer together, their hearts lifted high by the unexpected connection created on that stage. But Mr. Thompson, still standing there, was frozen. It was as if time had paused for him amid the whirlwind of emotion surrounding him. He gazed out at the crowd, faces reflecting joy and anticipation, and for the first time in years, he felt the pull of belonging, something he had deprived himself of for far too long. Yet, self-doubt crept in, whispering dark thoughts. What could a man like him, a life built on solitude and superficiality, ever contribute to a place teeming with warmth and life? Lily, sensing his struggle, took a step forward. Her small voice cut through the noise as she said, "You played so beautifully. We need more music like that in our town. Will you join us for more concerts?" Her eyes sparkled, genuinely wanting him to be part of their world. The audience collectively held their breath, awaiting Mr. Thompson's answer. For a fleeting moment, he contemplated the magnitude of her question. The path of connection felt daunting. But Lily's hopeful gaze, it was a lifeline to something he had long forsaken. Could he turn his back on years of isolation and step into the light again? Drawing a deep, trembling breath, Mr. Thompson finally found his voice. I would love to. But he faltered, a flood of vulnerability washing over him. "I'm not sure if I can really be a part of this." "But you just did." One of the townsfolk shouted from the crowd, echoing the rising sentiment. "Join us more. Help us save the community center." The warmth of their inclusiveness enveloped him, the doubts that once surrounded him beginning to melt. Music had done something remarkable. It had not only bridged the gap between him and Lily but also woven threads of connection through each person standing before him. Suddenly, Lily clapped her hands, rallying everyone's spirits. "Let us do this together. A series of concerts. We can share stories, create memories." Excitement spread through the crowd like wildfire, laughter punctuating the AIR.as. Mr. Thompson considered the little girl's suggestion, a spark ignited within him. Could he truly take this leap? Taking a step closer to the edge of the stage, he felt a strong resolve forming. "All right. Let us make music together." Cheers erupted, but it was the sound of the crowd that filled him with a newfound strength. In that moment, he realized it wasn't just about saving a building. It was about reclaiming a part of himself long abandoned. Days passed as the word spread, and planning for their concert series ensued. Lily worked tirelessly, rallying her friends and neighbors, while Mr. Thompson stepped into Xavier's role as a mentor. But as the concert dates approached, doubt still whispered in Mr. Thompson's mind. Was he truly ready for this journey? When the morning of their first concert dawned, an unexpected incident unfolded. A mysterious letter arrived for Mr. Thompson, unveiling secrets that threatened to unravel everything he had started to build. With his heart racing and uncertainty creeping in, he wondered, would the truth bring him closer to the community or push him away forever? Mr. Thompson stared at the letter in his trembling hands, its edges crisp and unforgiving. The ink was smudged slightly as if written in haste, and the words felt like a weight pressing down on his chest. He blinked hard, trying to push away the invading shadows of anxiety. What could it be? Unraveling years of solitude, he thought, surely not all of it could vanish in an instant. As he sat down on the porch steps, the sunlight filtered through the trees, casting light on the fragile piece of paper. The words whispered of old debts, a past entwined with regrets he had long buried. The revelation felt like a swift, icy wind cutting through the warmth he had just begun to embrace. He recalled Lily's bright smile on stage, the way the crowd cheered for him, and the melody that had danced through their hearts. It seemed impossible that just days ago, he had felt connected, free like a man reborn among the community he had once hidden from. Now, it felt as if the ground beneath him was giving way. "Mr. Thompson." Lily's voice burst through the air like a spring breeze, bright and cheery. She came running toward him, her hair bouncing with every step, holding a handful of flyers. "Look. I made these for the concert. We can start handing them out today," she said, beaming that he managed a weak smile, trying to mask the turmoil brewing inside him. "They look fantastic, Lily. Just, give me a moment, okay?" Her brightness dimmed slightly, concern creeping into her gaze. "Are you okay? You seem different." "I just have something on my mind," he said, trying to shake off the worry that clung to him. "What do you need help with for the concert?" Her spirit reignited at the change of topic. "We need to set up a stage at the park. And we can get some food trucks to come. Everyone's so excited." Her enthusiasm radiated through him, a welcome distraction. They spent the day folding flyers and discussing plans. Yet, as the sun began to set, the letter loomed like a dark cloud in the corner of his mind. How could he navigate this newfound connection with secrets throttling his heart? The following morning was a rush of laughter and energy as townsfolk gathered in the park to help set up for the concert. Mr. Thompson, who had never felt like he belonged anywhere, suddenly found himself surrounded by laughter and voices calling out to each other. It felt good. It felt right, however, as the clock ticked closer to showtime, the letter remained unwritten in his pocket, a constant reminder of questions he needed to answer. Would they understand? He had seen their faces light up with hope, but could he risk everything revealing the truth about the man he used to be? Lily approached him just then, her small figure framed against the vibrant decorations. "Mr. Thompson, you're still coming out to perform, right?" I wouldn't miss it," he replied, his heart suddenly caught in a tight knot. The warmth of her gaze wrapped around him, a lifeline in the tempest of his internal struggles. As the concert commenced, the crowd surged with anticipation. Music filled the air, vibrant and alive, but Mr. Thompson felt more than just notes floating around him. He felt the weight of decisions pressing against his soul. What if the truth shattered everything? With his heart racing and the spotlight growing brighter, he saw the faces around him: hope, trust, acceptance, and wondered if revealing his past would mean losing this present. Could courage be his choice? Would he dare to take that leap or retreat into shadows once again? In that moment, he felt an unfamiliar strength rising. Perhaps it wasn't the secrets that defined him, but the deep connections and memories he was forging now. With the rhythm of the music washing over him, he contemplated, was this the moment he would finally confront his past? As the first note rang out, everything hung in the balance. Would he allow fear to steal his chance, or would he finally embrace the man he was meant to be? Mr. Thompson's breath caught in his throat as the first note soared through the air. It felt electric, sending a familiar thrill pulsing through his veins. The crowd erupted, a sea of faces eager for the warmth of music, and for a moment, he felt like a part of something alive and vibrant. But beneath that joy, the weight of the letter lingered, a storm waiting to break. That he focused on the melody curling around him like a blanket, drawing him back to memories of happy days spent playing on stage. With each chord, the eyes of the townsfolk became windows to their trust, the very trust he feared losing. But could he share the truth and keep that connection intact? Lily stood close by, her small frame lit with enthusiasm as she watched the crowd. He could see the hope reflected in her eyes, and it wrapped around him like a warm embrace. That light, so innocent and pure, ignited a flicker of courage within him. The music flowed like a gentle river, softly guiding him. With every strum, every note, he could feel the tension between his heart and the shadow of his past. Maybe now was the time to take a leap, to finally free himself from the chains of regret. But what would happen when the music stopped, and he had to face them? As he played, a vivid memory flashed in his mind, a moment from a long time ago, before the shadows took hold. He had once sang with abandon, unburdened by fears. He had shared laughter with friends who believed in him. Could he reclaim that? Could he show them who he was behind the broken pieces? The song reached a crescendo, and the crowd swayed in unison, their joy palpable. In that moment of unity, he felt the stirrings of hope rise within him, wrapping around his heart. Maybe revealing the truth wasn't the end he feared, but the beginning of something far greater. When the last note faded, silence enveloped the park for a fleeting moment before applause erupted. It was like a wave crashing against the shore, filling the gaps in his chest with warmth and acceptance. Through the roaring cheer, he caught Lily's sparkling eyes, and his heart trembled with the possibility of revelation. "Thank you. That was incredible," she shrieked, rushing over as the audience began to disperse into laughter and chatter. She contained a brightness that stood out in the faded sunset. "You really blew everyone away, Mr. Thompson. Are you ready for the encore?" Her excitement was contagious, lifting the edges of his doubts. "Lily," he said, his voice catching, "there's something I need to tell you. Something about me." "What is it?" Her innocence burrowed deep into him, making it harder to hold back. His palms were clammy against the strings of his guitar. "It's about my past, about who I used to be." The words hovered between them, heavy and uncertain. Before he could say another word, the crowd erupted into cheers for more music. They wanted him back on stage. The pressure mounted, and yet, he felt something begin to shift inside of him. The whispers of his old fears were being drowned by the sound of hope. Lily's eyes searched his, and for the first time, he saw understanding there. She didn't look afraid. Instead, she looked patient, ready to hear his truth. "Just promise me you'll still be here," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I promise," he finally replied, gripping her gaze, feeling exhilarated yet terrified. As he stepped toward the stage again, he knew he was on the brink of something profound. Would he reveal his story now, in front of everyone? Would his past weave into the present or tear down the very connection he had fought to build? With his heart pounding, he made his choice. The next song would be more than music, it would be a bridge between the man he was and the man he could become. The crowd cheered for more, but he stood at the edge, staring into an uncertain future. What would his truth bring to the surface? As Mr. Thompson stepped back into the glow of the stage lights, the crowd's anticipation washed over him like a warm tide. The applause echoed in his ears, a drumbeat mixing with his racing heart. Each face present seemed to hold a piece of his story, and he could almost feel their collective breath held, waiting. That he adjusted the guitar against his side, its familiar weight felt reassuring. Tonight, it was more than an instrument, it was a channel for his truth. That he strummed the opening chords, letting them ring out into the night. The melody floated gently, soothing his frayed nerves. But this time was different. The song was infused not just with notes, but with the weight of his past. It was a song of redemption, of heartache, and ultimately, of hope. Lily watched from the edge of the stage, her face alight with encouragement. She tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, her eyes wide and full of trust. Holding her gaze, he drew in a deep breath, allowing the music to fill the spaces where doubt used to reside. With every note he played, memories unfolded. The laughter of childhood friends, the thrill of first love, the shattering silence of loss. Each strum became a pledge he was making to himself and to those who had gathered to listen. This was more than just a performance. It was a declaration of who he was and who he hoped to be. As he sang, he could almost hear the echoes of his past swirling around him. Words left unsaid tumbled through his mind, threatening to take over. He had hidden from the truth for so long. But tonight felt like a turning point, an opportunity to bridge his past with the present. The chorus swelled, and he glanced down at Lily again. She was smiling, lost in the music, her spirit unburdened by the complexities of the adult world. Her pure joy anchored him, reminding him that connection was built on honesty. Maybe it was time to let go of the fear that had gripped him for so long. With a final deep breath, he prepared himself for the moment he had been dreading and longing for. The last notes of the song lingered in the air, vibrating with unuttered truths. As the applause roared again, he raised his hand for silence. "Thank you so much for your kind words," he began, his voice filled with sincerity. "But before I play another song, I need to share something with all of you." The crowd stilled, curiosity etched on their faces. He could feel the weight of their anticipation pressing in around him. Just moments ago, he was filled with fear. Now, determination surged through him like adrenaline. "I've carried my past like a heavy backpack, full of things I didn't think anyone wanted to hear. But I realize now, it's time to unburden myself." He paused, glancing to where Lily stood, her eyes wide with emotion. "I haven't always been the man you see before you. I've made mistakes, big ones. But I've learned that our past does not define us." A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd, but he pressed on. "I want to be honest with you all so you know the real me. The man I want to become is someone worthy of the kindness you've shown me." As he spoke, he saw nods of understanding, a willingness to listen. And through it all, Lily remained by his side, a beacon of reassurance. But before he could dive deeper, a sharp voice broke through. "What have you done, Mr. Thompson?" It was a familiar figure, stepping forward from the shadows, and the recognition sent a cold chill through his veins. The unexpected visitor had arrived, and their presence threatened to unravel everything. Would this revelation unite him with his community or send him crashing back into isolation? His heart raced. The decision loomed ahead like a cliff's edge, and he stood on the brink, ready to take the leap. What would happen next? Mr. Thompson felt the heat of the spotlight intensify as the voice resonated through the crowd. He turned slowly, the air heavy with tension. It was Gerald, the town's most affluent businessman, his face a mask of disdain. Shadows lingered beneath his eyes, reflecting the weight he carried or perhaps the guilt that pressed him forward, uninvited. "What have you done, Mr. Thompson?" Gerald repeated, his voice sharper this time. The crowd shifted, a collective inhale hanging in the air like thick fog. Mr. Thompson's mind raced. The last thing he needed was an interruption, especially this one. He had finally begun to peel back the layers, to confront the shadows of his past, and now, Gerald was threatening to pull those layers right back down. The warmth from the stage lights felt blistering under the scrutiny of the crowd, their curious faces now focused on Gerald, who seemed to relish this moment of authority. "I've shared my truth," he replied, trying to keep control over his voice. "What's your question?" "Your truth. You think lying about your past is truth? I've seen the scars you left behind, the lives shattered." Gerald's words sliced through the crowd's growing murmur, causing the audience's mood to shift. Mr. Thompson could almost feel them leaning back, bracing themselves as if to retreat from whatever storm was brewing. He could sense Lily's concern nearby, her fingers curling nervously against her sleeve. "My past is my own," Mr. Thompson replied, holding firm. "I'm here to tell my story, not yours. We all have scars, Gerald. How we choose to show them defines who we are." Gerald seemed to falter for a moment but quickly regained composure. "You want to define yourself now? By playing music? By hiding behind a guitar and a pretty face?" With each word, the crowd's mood teetered. Whispers of doubt flitted through the air, but he could also sense the mix of empathy and solidarity gathering like an undercurrent. "Music is more than a distraction, it's a way to connect," Mr. Thompson stated, passion igniting his voice. "Maybe you don't understand that because you've locked yourself in a tower made of business deals and judgment." Lily took a step closer to the edge of the stage. Her wide eyes mirrored the encouragement he needed. "Don't let anyone take your voice away," she whispered, her words barely audible over the brewing tension. He nodded, bolstered by her unwavering belief. "There's power in vulnerability. Hiding behind success doesn't make you a giant, it makes you small." The crowd began to murmur again. People leaned in, engaged. The air thickened not just with criticism but with intrigue, the kind born when someone dares to stand up against the tide. Gerald's expression hardened, yet there was something fragile lurking behind the mask of bravado. Mr. Thompson swallowed hard, a realization sparking within him. He wasn't just fighting back for himself, but perhaps for Gerald too. Could this man also be lost beneath the weight of his own past? Before he could dive deeper, Gerald shot back, "You think you're the only one with a story? Everyone here has their own burdens to bear, including me." The punch pierced through the gathering energy, shifting the focus. Understanding began to ripple across the audience. They were no longer merely spectators, they were part of this unfolding narrative. Mr. Thompson felt the resolve swell within. "Then let us share them." He took a breath, steadied his grip on the guitar. "Let us put aside the judgment for a moment, and open up our hearts instead. Music doesn't just have power, it has the capacity to heal." As he settled into the next song, his heart raced. What if Gerald stepped forward? What if the truth he mentioned obliterated the boundaries built around their lives? This was a chance for healing that he had never expected. But could Gerald surrender his own burdens in front of all these people? With those questions echoing in his mind, he started playing, his fingers dancing across the strings. The crowd hushed, but not in fear, they were leaning in, ready to see where this moment would lead. Meanwhile, Gerald's expression flickered, perhaps a glimmer of hesitation mixed with uncertainty. Would he step forward, embracing the chance for redemption? The music flowed richly, laden with emotion, ready to bridge their worlds or tear them further apart. The soft strum of the guitar filled the air, weaving through the tension as Mr. Thompson poured every ounce of emotion into his music. The lyrics flowed like a heartbeat, resonating with every listener in the crowd. Faces softened, eyes glistened, and the once nervous murmurs faded into silence, replaced by the sincerity of his song, but as he sang, his gaze kept drifting back to Gerald. A sense of urgency tugged at him. He could see the businessman's facade beginning to crack. It was as if the music peeled away layers that Gerald had built up, one indictment at a time. Mr. Thompson had seen it before, the weight of secrets could mute the fiercest voices. As the song came to an end, there was a moment of stillness. The last note hung in the air, suspended like a breath held too long. The crowd absorbed the echo, then erupted into applause, but Gerald remained fixed in place. The clapping faded slowly, leaving the lingering question, would he stand firm, or would he step into the light? Gerald, Mr. Thompson called out, the weight of the moment resting heavily on his shoulders. You shared a burden with everyone here. Now, isn't it time to share your own? We're all waiting to hear your story. The air thickened again with anticipation. Gerald's lips moved slightly, as if he were rehearsing words that had been buried for far too long. He shifted his gaze, not to the crowd, but to the ground, an anchor in a stormy sea. The shadows under his eyes deepened, but there was also vulnerability beneath the sport coat. Why should I? His voice was strained, almost defeated. You think it's that easy? Just, open up. You don't understand the stakes. Mr. Thompson could feel the fear emanating from Gerald, pulsing like an echo box. It was evident this wasn't just about pride, it was something far deeper. The stakes are what we make them, he replied gently. You don't have to battle alone. We're all here, waiting with open hearts. Trust me, it could be the first step toward healing for both of us. Gerald looked up, the storm of conflicting emotions swirling in his expression. This was his chance, a crack in the wall built by years of isolation and shielded remorse. The crowd, sensing the shift, began to murmur again, filling the space with soft encouragement, and then, fragility broke through. I lost everything. Gerald's voice trembled as the confession began to seep out. My son, he died in an accident. I buried that pain under wealth, thinking I could make it disappear. Gasps echoed through the audience, and Mr. Thompson felt his heart leap into his throat. Here it was the shared pain, the understanding they both needed. It was raw and pulsating, hanging thick in the air between them. I didn't realize I was hurting everyone around me, Gerald continued, tears glistening in the corners of his eyes. I was just so afraid. I thought if I built this empire, it would make me stronger. Mr. Thompson stepped closer, the weight of the moment guiding him as a gentle wave would carry a wayward leaf. Strength can also be in vulnerability, he said softly. Your story is beautiful, Gerald. Share it. Let it breathe. We are ready. With the crowd now wrapped tightly in their shared experience, Gerald took a deep breath, like a swimmer who had just surfaced after holding his breath for too long. I never said goodbye. I was too wrapped up in myself. I thought success measured my worth. But in truth, I've been lost for years. The music thrummed again in Mr. Thompson's chest as he felt the urge to weave another melody around them, a song of healing, of brokenness, and ultimately, of hope. Lily watched from the side, tears streaming down her face, reflecting a collective release amongst the crowd as Gerald's walls began to crumble. This is it. Mr. Thompson thought, feeling the momentum shift around them. Would Gerald fully embrace this moment of unveiling? And would the music finally act as the balm needed to mend the wounds that had torn them apart for so long? With his fingers poised over the strings, he knew the next song would be pivotal. It could become the anthem of rebirth or the closing chapter of pain. The crowd leaned in closer. They were ready for whatever would unfold next, but so was he. What would happen if Gerald took that final step into the light, bearing his soul for all to see? Would it ignite a spark of change not just for him, but for everyone standing in solidarity? The moment hung in the air, thick with expectation. Gerald's heart raced, every heartbeat echoing his fears and the truth he had kept hidden. He could feel the warmth of the crowd, their eyes filled with compassion and understanding. For the first time in years, he felt himself teetering on the edge of something profound, a chance at honesty, at reconciliation. Thompson began to play a soft melody, a lullaby for broken hearts. It wafted around them like a comforting blanket. The notes soared and dipped, drawing everyone in closer, threading their hearts together. Gerald stood paralyzed, his mind racing with the myriad of what-ifs. What if he failed? What if his truth was too much? Just then, with a tender resolve, he lifted his face, meeting the weight of Mr. Thompson's gaze. "I've spent my life just running away from the grief," he finally said, his voice stronger than before. "But now, standing here, I realize, maybe I've been waiting for someone to help me face it." A ripple of acknowledgement flickered through the crowd. It was a reminder that they weren't just spectators but fellow travelers on this winding road of life. Each of them had faced their own shadows, and here, in this moment, they were a community. Emboldened, Gerald continued, "My son, Michael, he was everything to me. I should have been there for him, but I let work consume me. I prioritized deals over dinners, meetings over moments. In the end, I built nothing but walls." His voice wavered, tears spilling down his cheeks. "I thought power and money would fill the void, but they only made it worse." The audience was entranced. They leaned closer, captivated not just by his words but by the vulnerability he offered. Then Gerald took a deep breath, grounding himself. "There's a quote that says, 'Grief is just love with nowhere to go.' I've been holding so much love inside. It's time to let it out." With those words, the room seemed to shift. The tension evaporated as Barry whispered softly from the crowd, "We're here for you." The encouragement built a bridge of connection, an invisible thread pulling at everyone's heart, intertwining their stories with Gerald's. The music swelled. Mr. Thompson glanced at Gerald, sensing that something magical was about to happen. He played with more fervor, and Gerald could feel the strings of his guitar reverberating in his soul. It was as if the melody was encouraging him to release everything he had held back. "I miss my son," he said, his voice shaking. "I miss his laughter, his dreams, his future." Tears streamed down his face as he continued with newfound liberation. "I can't bring him back, but I can honor him. I can try to be better. For him. For all the moments I could have had." Empathy flooded every corner of the room. Gerald's pain became a shared experience, one that resonated deeply with many. Mr. Thompson felt this shared heartbeat through the melody, a resonance that seemed to bond them all in a profound way. Suddenly, amidst the emotional tide, Lily wiped her cheeks. Driven by a force that felt larger than herself, she stepped forward. "Can I sing too?" Her voice, though small, broke through the heaviness as she addressed the crowd. The attention shifted. "Please," Gerald nodded, a smile breaking through the tears. It was an invitation to connection, and the crowd parted slightly, allowing her to step forward. Taking a deep breath, Lily launched into a song, a simple tune about love and longing, innocence and healing. Her voice, pure and unrestrained, cascaded through the air, washing over Gerald like a gentle rain. In that moment, barriers continued to break down. Everyone listened in hushed admiration. Her words flowed effortlessly, wrapping around the crowd, each note pulling at hearts with a magical grip. The sincerity of her song transformed their shared sadness into hope, made palpable by the golden warmth of her voice. Gerald watched her, overwhelmed by the realization that this little girl, who had never known his son, was giving him what he needed: the chance to breathe again, the chance to begin again. As the final note lingered, the audience erupted in applause, but Gerald felt something deeper. It was more than mere appreciation, it was a spark, a moment of transformation. What doors might open from here? Would he finally accept love back into his life? Would he reclaim the joy that had long been buried? The air felt charged with possibility, and just as hope ignited within him, a new thought gripped his heart. what if Michael could be the guiding light for Gerald, not just in memory, but as a foundation for a new chapter? Would he dare to rediscover all the love that surrounded him and use it for healing? Gerald took his first step forward, but where would it lead him? Gerald took a tentative step towards the front of the room, his heart racing, every beat echoing the possibilities that lay ahead. As the applause faded into a gentle murmur, he felt the weight of the moment sink in. It wasn't just about his grief anymore, it was about what he could do with it. He glanced at Lily, who stood beaming, her small hands clasped together in radiance. The hope she ignited felt like a thread weaving through the hearts of everyone present. The crowd began to talk quietly among themselves, sharing their own stories of loss and healing. Gerald could hear bits and pieces, snippets of heartache that mirrored his own. Suddenly, the air buzzed with connection, a shared understanding that they were not alone. The healing had already started. Gerald. Barry's voice cut through the clamor as he approached, his face lit with encouragement. You spoke from the heart. That's what we all needed to hear, man. It's okay to feel. It's okay to let it out. Gerald managed a smile, the first genuine smile he felt in what seemed like ages. Thank you, he replied, his voice hoarse but full of gratitude. I don't know how to express what this means. You don't have to say anything more, Barry assured him. Just keep stepping forward, alright? There's a whole world out there waiting for you. Gerald looked around. The walls of his self-imposed confinement were gradually starting to crumble, giving way to the light that poured in from the outside. It was overwhelming, this flood of emotion, but it felt right. There was no time to think about fears, he needed to act. As Mr. Thompson's melody faded, Gerald felt a yearning for more. There was a hushed promise hanging in the room, he could feel it thrumming through the air. I want to honor Michael, he said, raising his voice with newfound strength. Not just here, but every day. How can I do that? Lily piped up again, her eyes sparkling with determination. You can help others. Like you helped me sing. You can teach them to share their stories, too. In that moment, inspiration flooded Gerald's mind. What if he created a community center, a place where people could come together to share their truths? A sanctuary where stories could flow freely, unearthing grief but also sowing hope. The idea was thrilling and daunting all at once. I could start something for families like mine, he murmured, looking at the eager faces before him. A place for healing, for connection, maybe even music. The idea began to take root, each word pushing him further into the light. The room erupted with excitement. People were discussing ideas, sharing thoughts on what such a center could look like, how they could contribute. Gerald could see enthusiasm bubbling up, igniting a fire in hearts that had been dimmed by sadness. The laughter, the chatter, it filled the air like a melody of hope weaving its way through their shared stories, yet just as he began to feel anchored in this new purpose, a pang of fear whispered in Gerald's mind. Could he really take on such a task? What if he failed again? What if he couldn't live up to Michael's memory, couldn't manage to build something meaningful? The doubts crept in like shadows, but this time, they didn't hold power over him. I might not have all the answers yet, he said with conviction, but I'll find them. I'll reach out. For Michael. For all of us. With renewed fire in his heart, he gazed at the crowd. Together, they formed a tapestry of resilience and love. In that connection, he sensed the beginnings of a new path, but as the evening progressed and ideas danced through the air, another thought nudged at Gerald's cornered heart. He realized he was standing on the brink of something larger than himself. Could his journey towards helping others also lead him toward healing his own heart? The moment felt like a crossroads, an invitation to forge ahead despite the fears. Where would this new journey lead him? With Lily smiling, Mr. Thompson strumming new chords, and an eager crowd rallying around him, one question stirred like a whisper on the breeze: what would he have to sacrifice to build this new life, and could it truly lead to peace? As Gerald stood at this vibrant crossroads, he felt both frightened and exhilarated. Would he have the strength to embrace what awaited? The story was just beginning to unfold. As the sun set, casting a warm glow over the town square, the energy crackled around Gerald. The audacity of taking a step forward ignited a fire in him. Here, among vibrant souls ready for change, he felt less alone. His heart pulsed with a courage he thought long buried. What started as a confession had blossomed into something bigger than he ever imagined. "Let's do this together!" Gerald shouted, the fervor spilling out as he met the determined gazes of his neighbors. "Let me help create a space where we can all share, heal, and grow." The crowd erupted in applause, cheers mixing with laughter as ideas raced like wildfire. "What about music therapy sessions?" someone called. "And art. Let us have painting and storytelling nights," shouted another woman with a bright scarf wrapped around her neck. Lily clapped her hands, her face glowing. "And we can have concerts," she chimed, twirling in delight. It was infectious laughter, hope, and possibility flowed through the crowd like a healing balm. Gerald stood taller as the buzz continued, the air charged with excitement. Each suggestion sparked new ideas in him, and he felt the heaviness of his past slowly lifting. "We'll host art classes, musical meetups, yoga for families," he declared, feeling the pulse of energy threading through them all. He glanced over at Mr. Thompson, who was holding his guitar, a warm smile stretching across his face. "What do you think, Thompson?" Gerald pressed. "You started this wave, and we can ride it together." With a twinkle in his eye, Mr. Thompson nodded. He began strumming a melodic chord that filled the air like honey, a sound rich and soothing. "Let us host concerts every month," he suggested, swaying with the rhythm building around them. "Invite local musicians, open the stage for everyone. What about a talent showcase?" Lily squeaked, eyes bright with enthusiasm. "So we can all show what we can do." Her innocence sparked another wave of inspiration, and soon the crowd erupted into a symphony of voices, each offering their gifts, each building the framework for their community's rebirth. Through the laughter and chatter, Gerald felt a sense of belonging he had long sought. He realized that through sharing his pain, he had paved the way for joy. Those walls he had built were tumbling down, replaced by something warm and open, something that breathed life into the broken pieces of their lives. As the twilight deepened, Gerald looked around at beaming faces, soaking in the love and connection that surrounded him. Here was a community of fighters and dreamers, united not just by tragedy, but by the spirit of rebuilding, a spirit he was now a part of. His heart swelled, shimmering with newfound purpose. "Thank you, everyone," Gerald called, his voice carrying warmth across the crowd. "Let us create this together. This will be our sanctuary for sharing stories, for music, laughter, and love. For Michael and for every one of us." The crowd erupted into applause once again, voices melding into one, a powerful, hallowed sound reverberating through the square. In that moment, Gerald felt a familiar ache but mingled with hope. The sadness transformed into strength, allowing him to embrace the memories of his son while forging a new path for the future he wished to see. Little Lily trotted over, her tiny hands outstretched, grabbing his. "Can we promise to always share music, even when it's hard?" Gerald bent down, eyes sparkling with unshed tears. "Absolutely, Lily. Music will always hold us, whenever we need it." The sun dipped lower, and fireflies began to appear, twinkling like stars in the dusk. The evening was only the beginning. Community gatherings, laughter echoing through the park, and healing through every note played, and Gerald emerged with the thoughts of hope reverberating in his heart. The crowds began to disperse, but the excitement lingered, promising transformations yet to unfold. A new chapter was just beginning for Gerald, for the townsfolk, and especially for that little girl with the unwavering spirit. As he walked away from the stage, Mr. Thompson fell into step. Beside him, a confidant and brother in this journey ahead. "That was beautiful," he said, smiling. "Tonight marked the beginning of many healing stories. Let us get to work on making this festival a regular joy." "Together," Gerald replied, grinning. In this small town, amidst a community that had almost felt lost, a miracle sparked anew as connections flourished, and music carried the hope that would heal their hearts. They held on to the promise they'd made to honor the whispers of their past, while soaring toward a brighter future. From pain grew compassion, and from compassion, a renewed purpose, and so they ventured forth, ready to embrace love, music, and a future sewn together with laughter, creativity, and the bonds of community. Now, dear friends, it's your turn to join this journey. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share this story with at least 5 friends who need to witness this transformation. Leave a like to feed the algorithm, and comment your reactions and feelings about this emotional ending. Your engagement means the world and keeps the magic alive. Let's keep this community thriving together.